So what does that now say for governance and accountability of funds? Because earlier on I did speak about, before you came in here, in terms of if this step would really engender accountability, if this step would not also make the chairpersons of local councils emperors like the governors have been. They are the almighty in their states, you know, to a large extent. They say what happens, you know. They even have a very solid power in terms of even swerving how the country would be. So what does this say?
Well, that is it. I think there shouldn't be any apprehension because, number one, this is not, the local government are still part of the states. And therefore, the governors will still have some form of influence. And the governors being governors, in a way also, there is a dotted line relationship with the local government. So they will still do things jointly. And one of the things we should try as much as possible to make sure it doesn't happen is that nobody is pitching the local government against the governors, or the vice versa. The idea now is that for the very first time, resources will get to the bottom, will get to the last mile, because we have seen, and that's why you can see organizations like SEREP. SEREP has gone to court to compel the 36 state governors, including the FCT minister, to show us what they have done with local government money since 1999. And we are talking about funds in excess of 40 trillion that has gone through that system. And that we are still having wards in Nigeria that literally there is no government presence, no access water, no borehole. People are doing open defecation. So I think, like I said, the grassroots now will enjoy democracy because power has been given to the people, to the grassroots, and backed by resources.
Isn't that also relative, that the grassroots will enjoy governance and democracy because power, financial autonomy has been given to them? You can be giving money, but you don't also spend the money well, or you don't spend the money at all, or you mismanage the money. So should we be a bit cautious with our optimism?
I think we've been in the hole for 2.5 decades. And I think the optimism should be sustained regardless of the fact that there are still certain things that need to be done. For example, how do you get the right people to even be local government chairman? So the recruitment corridor needs to be looked at. And the critical thing there is the State Independent Electoral Commission. Obviously, for this autonomy to work properly, now the recruitment process, which we have seen over the years, apart from resources, even the electoral process has not been managed well by the governors. And that is why eventually, within the past 2 decades, they have succeeded in harming public trust, destroying the trust that the Constitution vested in them to guide that tier of government and supervise its own activities. And that is why you see this judgment comes with a whole lot of optimism and happiness from Nigerians, because in all fairness, the governors have not done well in terms of managing local government resources and also the electoral process. So one of the things that ought to be done and should be done also almost immediately is to make sure that the independent state electoral commissions are abolished, scrapped. And then INEC should take over the conduct of elections for the 3 tiers of government. And I think that will infuse some elements of independence and some elements of getting the right people, so that we don't also have stooges of governors going into
local councils.
Yes, local councils as elected officials. That needs to be done. Then we can now come back to the issue of transparency, accountability, and governance.
So which one should we now, let's discuss the recruitment process. Which should we now take, the cart before the horse?
Well,
you understand what I mean?
well, it is what it is.
That's the politics first, the politics first before the economics.
No,
of
let's
it.
do with we have to deal with the resources, and I'll tell you why. Because to abolish to get the INEC to take over the elections for the 774 local government, will need the National Assembly to do the needful. And I think even the Constitution needs to be amended. So, but if we have seen, because another thing we have also seen, which is also something that we need to borrow from what has happened now, is that between 1999, in all, we have had about 10 parliaments. This is the 10th National Assembly. Yeah. So from 1999 to date, we have had about 7 National Assembly. That means about 7 parliaments. In all these 7 parliaments, there was an attempt to amend the Constitution. And one of the issues was local government autonomy. But what was the outcome? In all cases, it failed. Now, this government cleverly came up with an idea of approaching the Supreme Court to answer those intelligent questions. And the Supreme Court answered them in the affirmative. So we have other issues that are associated with devolution of powers, the issues that are still either in concurrent list or exclusive list. We now know that the best way of resolving these things is to go to the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution. I think we have a pathway now. Do you
know why I'm smiling?
Yeah.
I just remember the Naira redesign issue that also ended
in the Supreme Court.
Ended at the Supreme Court.
Yes. So the management of resources is what needs to be looked at immediately, while we wait for the review of the laws and perhaps even the Constitution regarding the elections.
So how will that work? Because over the weekend too, there were elections.
Yes.
Yes, there were elections.
Governors.
You're seeing that even the parties or the governors whereby they have, I think in Adama, for example,
if it is
PDP
APC,
was
APC. If it is PDP,
exactly. So that also brings me